for which the judge signed this no-knock warrant in the first place to allow them to be at Breonna's apartment and bust open her door.
That's right.
Because if he didn't send that, my son,
What did he argue? What did he argue?
did he tell them about the 12 neighbors that Sam Augiar's office interviewed and recorded that lived in close proximity of Breonna's apartment that all said they did not hear the police knock and announce their presence? Did he let them testify before the grand jury? Did he allow the one neighbor who they keep proclaiming that heard the police knock and announce testify before the grand jury, even though, Tamika, as I understand, on 2 previous occasions, he declared that he did not hear the police knock and announce. So is this the only person out of her apartment complex did he allow to testify before the grand jury? That doesn't seem fair. That doesn't seem like you're fighting for Breonna. That doesn't seem like you're putting forth evidence for justice for Breonna. Did he let the cops who shot over 30 rounds of bullets in Breonna's apartment, one from outside the apartment shooting recklessly and blindly, and the others who shot bullets into her body, did he allow them to testify before the grand jury? Did he allow Breonna's boyfriend, Kenny Walker, to testify before the grand jury? Did he talk about them sending the ambulance away before they executed this no-knock warrant, violating their own policies and procedures, knowing that these no-knock warrants are dangerous? And it was foreseeable that somebody could be injured, a citizen or police or a third-party innocent bystander like Breonna Taylor, who lived in that apartment, who had every right to legally be in that apartment, who did not have a gun, was only clothed in her night clothes, and had every right to live and breathe in her apartment. Did he present that to the grand jury? Well, if he didn't present these things to the grand jury, what kind of sham grand jury proceeding was this?
Yeah. Kangaroo court.
It follows a pattern. It follows a pattern, Bianca, of the blatant disrespect and marginalization of black people, but especially black women in America who have been killed by police. Because part of Breonna's legacy will always be, just like Trayvon Martin and Michael Brown raised America's consciousness level and attention to Black Lives Matter, Breonna's legacy will be that black women life matters too. So when we think about this grand jury proceeding, if you want us to accept the results, then release the transcript.
That's right.
Release the transcript so we can have transparency. And if you did everything that you could do on Breonna's behalf, you shouldn't have any problem whatsoever, Daniel Cameron, to releasing the transcript so that we can see you fought for all of Kentucky's citizens, especially including Tamika Palmer's daughter, Breonna Taylor. Release the transcript. Release the transcript. Release the transcript. Release the transcript. Release the transcripts. 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 Y'all, I don't know if Daniel Cameron can hear us. Let's say it from the heart. So not only Daniel Cameron can hear us, but Breonna Taylor can hear us from heaven. What we want Daniel Cameron, the Kentucky Attorney General, to do. On 3, 1, 2, 3, release the transcripts. At this time, you know, before I bring up one of the greatest lawyers, one of the greatest secrets in Louisville, Kentucky, my co-counsel, my sister, my co-warrior, Lonita Baker. I would be remiss if I didn't tell you, Breonna, Tamika, people who are in the fraternity that you're in from all over America, a fraternity that no parent wants to be in, but far too many black mothers and fathers are part of, have sent their pledge of support to stand with you. All of them couldn't come like Mr. Jacob Blake Sr., but all of them sent their support. When the announcement came out, Philonis Floyd and Rodney Floyd and Bridget Floyd, the brothers and sisters from George Floyd, who was killed in Minneapolis, Minnesota, were the first ones to pledge their support. And then right after that, Lonita, we got a call from Sabrina Fulton's, Trayvon Martin's mother. Then right after that, we got a text from Michael Brown's mother, Leslie McSpadden, and then right after that, we got a call from Botham Jones' mother, who was killed in his apartment in Dallas, Texas. And we got a call from his mother, Allison John, and his sister, Alicia Finley. We got a call from House Representative Lucy McBath, who father Jordan Davis. Our son was killed for playing loud music. We got a call from Dr. Tiffany Crutcher, the twin sister of Terrence Crutcher, who was killed in Tulsa, Oklahoma. That was hands up, don't shoot on video, Tamika. We got a call from Gwen Carr, Eric Gardner's mother from Staten Island, New York. We got a call from Tamir Rice's mother, Tamaria Rice. We got a call from Minneapolis, Minnesota, Philando Castile's mother.
Oh my gosh.
We got a call from Stephon Clark's brother, Stephante, and grandmother, who was killed in Sacramento, California. We got notified that Sandra Bland's mother is pledging her support to be with you. We got notified that Ezel Ford, a brother who was having a mental health crisis in Los Angeles, California, is pledging his support. Dijon Kinsey, who was shot 15 times 2 weeks ago in the back by the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. I left Los Angeles coming here. His aunt, who raised him, literally wept for you, even though she had just lost her nephew, who she raised as her own son. Joseph Richardson's mother, Baton Rouge, Louisiana. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. So we are here declaring in Breonna Taylor's name, enough is enough, America. 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 Please join me in welcoming a great champion for justice, my co-counsel from the law firm of Sam Augiar, who's also present with us here and deserves acknowledgement. A great, great lawyer. We give you Attorney Lonita Baker.
That's right.
I know Attorney Crump has demanded that we release the transcript, and I echo that demand.
Amen.
And we don't want to hear that you can't release the transcript because you released the recording of Kenny Walker's
Tell it!
grand jury proceedings. So you can release the recordings. And we demand that you release the recordings. But not only do we want the recordings and the transcript, what we also want is for you to quit dodging the questions, Daniel Cameron. You were asked at the press conference, did you make a recommendation? You refused to answer. Answer the question.
Answer the question.
And I've asked you several times, did you even present any charges regarding Breonna Taylor to the grand jury? I don't want to hear that the grand jury determined this if it's your office that unilaterally determined not to charge any officers with the death of Breonna Taylor. You can't pawn this off the grand jury if your office made that decision, and we, the voters, deserve the right to know who is it that we need to say got it wrong.
Tell it.
That's right.
Did the grand jury get it wrong in using the defensive justification, or did your office get it wrong? Because what we know in Kentucky, and what many of you may not know, is I practiced criminal law for 13 years in this Commonwealth of Kentucky.
Tell them your resume. That's
I did it as a prosecutor and a defense attorney. So I know the law of self-defense in Kentucky.
That's right.
And I know that you don't have the right to use the defense of self-defense when you injure or kill an innocent third party.
That's right.
And what we know from Sergeant Mattingly's own testimony to the Public Integrity Unit is that he saw that Breonna Taylor was unarmed.
Yes. Yes.
His own testimony, he saw Breonna Taylor was unarmed. And then you put a lot of attention on the bullet, the fatal shot to Breonna Taylor being made by Miles Cosgrove. If he wasn't able to see Breonna Taylor, to also see that she was unarmed, then he also was firing just as recklessly as Brett Hankinson, and he deserves to be here charged with wanton murder of Breonna Taylor. If he didn't see her, he didn't have target acquisition, he deserves to be charged right now.
Come on.
Yeah.
Tell them how you feel.
So don't tell us that the grand jury made this determination if it was truly your determination. Answer that question head on. Was it your office's decision or was it the grand jury's decision? Release the transcript.
Release the transcripts.
And I know we have a lot going on, and I've been angry. I have been angry, and I'm angry because, as I said, I've worked in this system. I worked as a prosecutor who fought so hard to make sure I was administering justice regardless of who the victim was, regardless of who the perpetrator was. And that's the only way that the system's going to work, is to have prosecutors, Daniel Cameron, that work for us. And Daniel Cameron, I took offense to you not being fully upfront with Tamika Palmer when we met with you.
Right.
Should have never brought it there. Should have never
I
brought
take
it there.
true offense to that. And you have to know your legal obligations as a prosecutor is to inform the family, to talk to the family, to keep them informed on what's going on. You failed to do that, and you failed to be fully honest with her when we met with you while the grand jury report was being relayed to the public. So you told us we would know in advance. We learned at the same time that America learned. That's unacceptable.
That's
That's
right.
right.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
We have a right to be angry,
That's right.
but I do want to talk to those of us who have been on the ground. We can't let the anger consume us, because we still got work to do.
Tell it.
And we can't fully think when we're consumed by anger. And so I've been praying this morning to not let the anger that's been inside of me consume me and come out today, because I know we have work to do. I'm dressed down today because I'm staying down here.
That's right.
Because I want LMPD majors who say that we're the ones out here washing cars or checking you out at Walmart. No, we're not. We're lawyers.
That's
We're
right.
business people. We're city employees just like you.
Right.
And guess what? Even if I was washing your car,
That's right.
it doesn't matter. I have a right to use my voice. 2 years ago, I was was checking people in and out of a hotel too while also practicing as a lawyer. Guess what? When I was there, I was the same person that I am practicing law. So LMPD, you have to change the mentality of who you're fighting. You're not going to have this city of Louisville believe that Attica Scott, Shamika Parrish, Rhonda Mathis, and those who were with them was burning down a library. Stop the lies. We can't move forward with the lies.
Yes.
We can't move forward with the lies. We know that we need healing. We know that this city needs healing, and we're willing to do our part, but you have to do your part. And until you start doing your part, we won't heal.
That's right.
We're here.
Yeah.
We're here when you're ready to listen to us, to come
Amen.
down. And I challenge those of you who are off today, you don't have to come down and protest, but I challenge you to come down here and listen to the people who are protesting.
Exactly.
Those of you who are elected officers, come down here during the day.
That's right.
Listen to the
Tell them.
protesters.
That's right.
Tell them.
Business people who have sent me inboxes, we support you. Support us by coming down here, showing them that we're not just car washers checking people out.
That's right. You're not
There's
the
so
enemy.
many more people down here. And quit skewing. Media, quit skewing the way that people are protesting. You know the majority of the people down here are nonviolent. You've been down here for 120 days. You know it. Quit making it seem like they're violent. They're not. Yes, shout out to the 502 live streamers, because that is how we're learning the truth. That is how we're learning the truth. Regular media, take a cue. Film it all. Don't slant it. Tell the truth. LMPD, tell the whole truth. Everybody, tell the whole truth, including you, Daniel Cameron. Did you make the decision, or did the grand jury make the decision?
All right,
Release that transcript.
That's why I call her my co-warrior.
That's right.
Not co-counselor, co-warrior, Lonita Baker. Let me repeat that. Maybe they didn't hear me. That's why I call her my co-warrior.
That's right.
Not co-counselor, co-warrior.
Right.
And Attorney Augiar, the secret's out the bag now.
Yeah.
The secret is out the bag. What a great, well-kept secret Kentucky has in Attorney Lonita Baker. And boy, I tell you, it's a wake-up call to these elected officials because she represents the most talented, most articulate, most intellectual representative of this city that we have to offer.
Yeah.
And so if you don't do your job, it's going to be people like like Lonita Baker or others who going to take your seat. Before we bring this next champion of justice up, we want to have a statement from the family. You know, Sam and Trader Truth, for 191 days, people all across America, people elected in Washington like Senator Kamala Harris, people in the National Basketball Association and the Women's National Basketball Association, NFL players, celebrities who we all called to the protest. Y'all remember they came to the Capitol like Jada Pinkett Smith and Common and so many others, but Rhapsody, so many others, but more importantly, just regular people, regular folk, black, white, Hispanic, Native, all over the world have been saying, say her name. And how insulting was it on the indictment that Kentucky Attorney General Daniel Cameron didn't mention her name one time? So Tamika Palmer, before we bring your sister up to speak, I want you all to do me a favor. Since he didn't say it in the indictment, say her name.
Breonna Taylor!
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 Yeah, next we will hear from the sister of Tamika Palmer, the aunt of Breonna Taylor, Bianca Austin, who I will tell you, before we were fighting for Breonna Taylor, she was like the lawyer on the front line leading the protest. So it is aptly appropriate for Bianca to come and make a statement on behalf of the family. So I will ask for the charity of your undivided attention while she read a message from the family, and especially from the heart of Breonna's mother, Tamika Palmer. Please, Miss Austin.
Thank you, thank you. Oh, well, I'm standing here today. I'm going to represent my niece in her EMT jacket. I chose this just to have her be a part of us today. Also, I just want to shout out to our family. It's been a long 6 months, and it's been a wild roller coaster. Not only have we been out here fighting for justice for Breonna, but we are continuing to lose our family members to cancer, to COVID, to being murdered. And so my messages to you is just cry your tears, lift your head up, and keep stepping.
I hear you, Bianca.
And most of you know this has been emotionally, mentally, and physically draining for my sister. So I'm going to do the honor and read her thoughts after Daniel Cameron's decision. And I quote, "I never had faith in Daniel Cameron to begin with. Amen. I knew he was too inexperienced to deal with a job of this caliber. I knew he had already chosen to be on the wrong side of the law. The moment he wanted the grand jury to make the decision, what I had hoped is that he knew he had the power to do the right thing, that he had the power to start the healing of this city, that he had the power to help men over 400 years of oppression. What he helped me realize is that it will always be us against them, that we are never safe when it comes to them. Mattingly, in an email, called us animals and thugs. It's clear that that is the way that they will always see us. I was reassured Wednesday of why I have no faith in the legal system, in the police, in the law that are not made to protect us black and brown people. But when I speak on it, I'm considered an angry black woman. But know this, I am an angry black woman. I am not angry for the reasons that you would like me to be.
That's right.
I'm sorry. But angry because our black women keep dying at the hands of police officers.
Black men.
And black men. Okay. Angry because our children are dying at the hands of police officers. And I'm angry because this nation is learning that our black women dying at the hands of police officers, and this is not okay.
That's not what I wrote.
You can take the dog out of the fight, but you can't take the fight out of the dog.
Say it again.
For lack of better terms, bark bark for being the dog still standing to fight.
Yeah.
I knew Cameron would never do his job, but what I do know is that him and countless others will go to bed sleeping with Breonna's face, still hearing her say her name.
That's right.
Cameron alone didn't fail her, but it ended with the lack of investigation failed her. The officer who told a lie to obtain a search warrant failed her. The judge who signed the search warrant failed her. The terrorist who broke down her door failed her. The system as a whole has failed her. You didn't just rob me of my family. You robbed the world of a queen. A queen willing to do a job that most of us could never stomach to do. A queen willing to build up anyone around her. A queen who was starting to pave her path. I hope you never have to know the pain of knowing your child is in need and help and you're not able to give them. I hope you never hear the sounds of seeing someone cry and beg for your child to get help and she never receives help. Those cries was ignored. I hope you never know the pain of your child being murdered 191 days in a row. Tamika Palmer.
Jesus.
I am so sorry. So sorry you got to go through this. So sorry. It's unacceptable. But your family got your back.
Yes.
We're not going nowhere until freedom has your back. Lonita has your back. Ben has your back. Your daddy has your back. And guess what? This park, these people that's out here stomping on these grounds has your back.
That's right. Stomping on these grounds. That's right. Fresh out. Fresh out.
And Sam got her back.
Oh, you know.
And God definitely got your back.
Thank you. Thank you, Bianca. And thank you for reading. Thank you for reading the words from a mother's heart. A heart that is broken. Thank you, Bianca. That was heartfelt. Every mother around the world could feel Tamika's pain. We just take a moment for a second to reflect on what we just heard. Just know we love you, Tamika Palmer. We're standing with you. Okay. It's okay. You can get me as wet as you want. What a wonderful soul. At this time, I really mean it because I when Lonita and Sam called me, you know, black women are often disrespected. I mean, and we were calling people in the media, and we know it's the call celeb now, but people were not trying to do stories on Breonna Taylor, this black woman who was killed by the police. And a lot of people did not return my calls as we were begging to give attention to Breonna Taylor. But I gotta tell you, a lot of people did answer the call. And I won't go through the list, but one young woman who answered the call, I had known she was a champion for justice, for our days fighting for Trayvon Martin, and so many other families that have been inflicted with this police terrorism that claimed the lives of their loved ones. And not only did she answer the bell, she said, Crump, we are not going to leave this until we get charges. And it was deep to me, Lonita, and you remember we then started going on her social media and doing the Instagram lives just to try to bring awareness to Breonna Taylor's name. And I remember others allowing us to use their platform, and I don't want to take anything away from Ricky Smiley and Charlemagne and Tesla Figaro and Reverend Al Sharpton allowing us to go on this TV show. But this young lady, almost every day, went on social media and followed Jania's lead. Because remember, Tamika Janaya every day went on social media and said, my sister Breonna Taylor life mattered when nobody else was listening. But then this young lady got involved and had us on Sam on her social media every day, and we strategized every day. And then she said, you know what, Crump? Me and my organization, Until Freedom, we're moving to Louisville, Kentucky, and we're going to stay every day, because if Tamika Palmer can't sleep in peace, neither can we. And we're going to come and be in solidarity together, demanding justice for Breonna Taylor. And for, I think now, over 4 months, you all have been here, living here this whole time. And that's why I call her the queen of the movement for justice for Breonna Taylor. My sister, my warrior, my freedom fighter, Tamika Mallory.
No justice.
No peace.
No justice.
No peace.
No justice.
No peace.
No justice.
No peace.
And if there ain't gonna be no justice, there
Ain't gonna be no peace.
You know, I want to read something to you all that I learned of just the day after Daniel Cameron's decision. It says, it is a great honor to receive the endorsement of the bipartisan Kentucky Fraternal Order of Police. To the men and women in blue, I pledge to be your advocate and your voice every day. When I first got into this race, I did so to bring focus to the public safety challenge of our lifetime, the drug crisis. And there is so much work to be done to fight this epidemic. I am humbled to have this endorsement, and as a chief law enforcement officer in Kentucky, I will work every day to make our communities safer and our families and citizens more secure. Half of that statement is from Daniel Cameron when he received the endorsement of the FOP, one of the most racist organizations that exist in America. I got time today.
Okay. And receipts.
And half of that statement was a lie. Daniel Cameron is not here to protect citizens and to make the state of Kentucky safer. But he was honest about one part, and that is that he is an advocate for police, and that he was going to be their voice and to do whatever is necessary to protect them. And so we learned that he's a man of his word as it relates to his relationship to police. He protected the police. And it did not matter to him one bit that those same officers could have ran in his black mama's house and shot her to death. He's more committed to the white supremacy that he is upholding. He mentioned at the press conference, which I thought was quite interesting, that he's a black man. And as I laid and cried and hurt for Tamika Palmer and for Breonna Taylor and for Kenny Walker and for Janaya, who we need to love up on. As I laid there and I thought about him saying he's a black man, I thought about the ships that went into Fort Monroe and Jamestown with our people on them over 400 years ago. And how there were also black men on those ships that were responsible for bringing our people over here. Daniel Cameron is no different than the sellout Negroes that sold our people into slavery and helped white men to capture our people, to abuse them and to traffic them while our women were raped, while our men were raped by savages. That is who you are, Daniel Cameron. You are a coward, you are a sellout, and you were used by the system to harm your own mama, your own black mama. We have no respect for you. No respect for your black skin. Because all of our skin folk ain't our kin folk, and you do not belong to black people at all.
That's right. My Lord. Okay.
We learned that on the same exact day that this announcement came out, it was the day that in September of, I forget the year, 1955. 1955, which was 65 years ago.
Yeah.
Emmett Till was also killed again. Denied justice. Because the two white officers responsible for, the two white men, responsible for killing him were let free. That happened on the same day. Now, I don't know if it's just that Daniel Cameron is stupid.
He loves history.
Or that he is very, very, very clear about history and made a decision to wait 6 months and come forward with this announcement, this garbage that we received on the exact same day that Emmett Till's family received the same result.
And the Historical Society.
And the historic.
You better talk, girl. You better talk. You better talk.
But I want you to understand how wicked he is. How wicked he is. And how wicked this system is. Attorney Sam Augiar, and I hope I don't get in trouble for this, but I gotta say it. Y'all know I push the envelope too far all the time.
That's all right.
Attorney Sam Augiar said he spoke to the Attorney General's office and told them, do not have Tamika Palmer come all the way to Frankfurt, which is an hour drive away, to hear bad news and have to drive back. Do not do that to her. You can call on the telephone to tell her bad news. And that wicked man called for her to come there anyway and had this black mama to have to drive home with her sister and her family after hearing that they didn't even mention her daughter's name in the damn indictment process in this grand jury hearing. How dare you? What kind of man are you? How dare you?
Coward.
And we are not going home. We will make sure that this city is as uncomfortable as it can be, and we intend
Stay in the streets.
And we intend to travel across the state of Kentucky and make sure that in every corner of this state they know who you are, Daniel Cameron, and who is upholding the system of white supremacy that continues to oppress our people. The last thing we will say is, Mayor Fisher, don't get it twisted. Don't get it twisted. Do not think for one moment that you're going to hide behind a settlement or hide behind reform that we are happy to see that you actually support it, but it must be implemented, and we have to make sure that that work is done.
That's real. That's real.
But the main thing that matters at this point, you can have the National Guard, the Army, the white militia, the whoever you want to have here, LMPD, whoever you want to have. Anybody, turn them loose.
We're gonna be here.
Tell them, turn them loose. But until you fire those cops, until your investigation returns the results that the police officers who murdered, they said they were mad at me for using the language murder. I said what I said. They murdered Breonna Taylor. And until those officers are fired from this department, I promise you, we will continue to make these streets hot.
We're gonna be in these streets.
Block is hot, baby.
We're gonna be in these streets.
Block is
Now,
hot.
and today at 5 o'clock, just for anybody who's wondering when to meet us, we're going to be outside.
5 o'clock.
We're going to be outside. The last thing I want to tell you all is that I'm a visitor, so I observe. And our team, we don't live here permanently, but we temporarily live here. And we observe a lot. So last night as we broke curfew, because that's what we do.
That's right.
That's what we do.
Every night.
And we prepared for whatever that means. We drove around and we noticed that there were some other people breaking curfew.
Let's talk
There was
about it.
other people breaking curfew.
Talk about it. talk about it.
And we were rushing from a meeting to try to get to a church that is being a place of sanctuary for protesters so that they can be inside, because that's what y'all said y'all wanted us to do, was to be inside. Am I right about that? And so these folks were on their way to go inside and to disrespect the state representative, Attica Scott, Shamika Parrish, who is a leader in this community, and other women, other black women, and other individuals, and to say that they were actually burning down something. As Attorney Lonita Baker says, it is despicable. It's despicable, and you are liars. But as I was riding around and we saw all these people in one place at a Shell gas station that is not far from here, Jefferson and First, I was looking and I said, wait, we got to stop, because is that the police? Is it the military? No, it was the white militia. And it was after 9 o'clock, and they were breaking curfew with me. So what I want to know is it okay for us to even be at a church? And they can be outside, but we can't be at a church. I thought Mayor Fisher said that he wanted the churches and the mosque and other places to open up. Why were they arrested last night, and yet the white militia was allowed to be outside after 9 o'clock? Because they said, listen, Louisville residents, I want you to be clear about what they said. They said that the owner of the Shell gas station, had the white militia on their property to protect them. So they're telling you who they with. So if you continue to go to the Shell gas station as a person, a black person in this city, or any person who claims to support our cause, you got it twisted. You boycott Baiters immediately. We have no reason to go back to that gas station since they are standing with the white militia.
What's that address again?
And it's on
What's that address?
First and Jefferson. And they shot, and one of their white employees shot a black man down there the other day. And ironically, they put out video of some people in the store throwing things down on the ground afterwards, but they never showed that the reason why that even happened was because a black man was shot there, and they held the man who shot him inside the store for 2 hours to protect him. And the question I have for the media is, where is that story? Why is it that people don't know a black man was shot at a Shell station and the white militia is being allowed to stand outside there and protect them? So I'm done. But I want to tell you that what has actually happened is that, one, Breonna Taylor has brought us together. And we will never be separated. And number two, we are prepared to fight until our own death, if it is necessary. Not just for her, but for every single little Breonna Taylor that is watching us, not for what Dr. King did, not for what Coretta Scott King did, not for what those did in the past. They want to know what this generation is going to do to stand for freedom and justice. And I'm telling you, we didn't come to play. God bless you.
Hey, that's why we're going to bring it back. Let's get Mr. Blake in there. She's coming. All right. Hey, that's why we call her the queen of this movement. And I will tell you, it's so important that we turn this moment into a movement, that we transform this pain into power. That we transform this protest into policy. So I do want to announce that on October 14th, which is George Floyd's birthday, we want to have a national get out to vote rally in cities all across America. I know Reverend Al and George Floyd's family are going to go lead a march in Minneapolis, Minnesota. I pray that Bianca and Tamika and Lonita and Tamika again will help lead a march to vote for Breonna on that day in Louisville, Kentucky. We're asking for people all across America whose families have been afflicted by police brutality to go to the front line and help lead people to the polls, because the definition of insanity is to continue to do the same thing and expect different results. And I know that no candidate is perfect, but you vote for the candidate who has the interest most aligned with your interest. And that's all we gonna say. Now, right now, we're bringing a brother who came a long way to be here. And if you've seen any of his interviews, you know he come from the Tamika Mallory School. he ain't gonna hold back. A man who also is heartbroken. A man who talked to Tamika Palmer on the phone. They met at the March on Washington with National Action Network, and he has been steadfast in his commitment for justice for Breonna while still fighting for his own son, justice for Jacob Blake Jr. Please welcome Jacob Blake Sr. Big Jake. Big Jake. Big Jake. That's right, Big Jake. Big Jake.
Oh, Lord. Yeah, I must got to get off this wood. First of all, we drove 8 hours here for this family right here. Yes, sir. And I love each and every one of you. I love each and every one of you. For the activists in the square,
that's right.
we ain't going nowhere.
That's right.
We will not be moved.
That's right.
We will not be moved. That drive meant nothing to me
Hey.
because I knew I had to be here. I knew I had to be here, standing next to my fraternity member. We didn't choose this fraternity. This fraternity chose us. So if we lay down and let them run over us, then who would we be?
That's right.
Where would we go? We couldn't look you all in the face if we didn't stand up the way we were supposed to stand up. And Daniel, it's not a photo op with Mitch McConnell
Hey.
or Donald Trump. Did you say her name? Did you say her name?
No, he didn't.
Don't come bringing us that shucking and jiving stuff.
Hey.
Nobody's ready for that.
No.
We're tired of that. Don't shuck and jive and bojangles your way across the street. Face this family. Turn on the lights.
That's right, turn them on.
Show the truth. Show what you did and what you did not do.
Yes, sir.
We're tired of it. Enough is enough.
Amen.
I know what this sister goes through. You all don't understand when it's your child. You can't fathom the emotions that you go through every night. You hear them talking to you. They're not there, and you hear them talking to you. I knew this family needed some energy, and I said, I'm coming. I'm coming.
Yes, you did.
Because we ain't going to lay down anymore.
That's right.
You cannot stop the revolution.
That's right. Stop the revolution.
You cannot stop it. I stand here today in Louisville, Kentucky, one of my favorite cities I've
Hey.
ever had.
Hey.
Muhammad Ali came from here. I've made salat with Muhammad Ali so many times you wouldn't believe it. I've heard so many stories about it was a chicken place with biscuits here he would talk about. I'm here for this family. And if you think you got a sucker standing in front of you,
Hey.
Talk to him.
if you think you got a sellout standing in front of you,
Talk to him.
my son gave me the power to come over here
That's
today.
right.
He cannot stand for himself today. So I stand for him.
There you go.
We stand for him.
That's right.
We are family.
right.
We are community.
right.
It takes everyone to stand up and say something.
That's right.
You cannot get rolled over.
Jacob is standing for the family of Breonna.
Jacob standing for Breonna.
That's right.
Did he say her name? Did Daniel Cameron say her name? And that's what he is.
Well,
That's what he is.
Okay.
If you have breath in your body and you are concerned about the lives of your children, your grandchildren, your brothers, your sisters, your mother, your cousins, your aunts, your uncles, you will take yourself and register to vote.
Amen.
Because if we do not change these laws, they will still continue to treat us like we are animals. My son and Breonna were human beings. The laws, the people's minds, they have to be changed. We know how to speak English. We know how to articulate. You can't feel the way we feel unless you put on this suit. I don't take this suit off for nothing. I go to sleep in it, I eat in it, I walk in it, I wash in it. I can't take it off. But there's no need for you to look at us in an animalistic way. We are no less important than you white people standing in this crowd.
that's right.
We understand that we love our children, we love our families like you love yours. Why in 2020 am I having to tell you that we're human beings? Why? Say her name.
Breonna Taylor!
Say her name.
Breonna Taylor!
Say her name.
Breonna Taylor!
I love y'all, Louisville.
We love you too.
Yes, this the last one. This the last one.
After that.
Before I bring up our last speaker for the day, I do want to say one more thing to Daniel Cameron. If you, in fact, did not say Breonna Taylor's name to the grand jury, if, in fact, you did not present any charges on behalf of Breonna Taylor to the grand jury, we demand that you appoint a special prosecutor to present charges on behalf of Breonna Taylor to a grand jury because it's not too late. We still demand full justice for Breonna Taylor.
That's it. That's it.
And with that, I'm going to bring up our own Kentucky state
Yes.
representative who had to spend a night in jail,
Fresh out.
fresh out of being released for jail for what, allegedly burning down a library. That's what they said. So we're, with all due respect to House Representative Attica Scott.
First of all, I have to say to you, Ms. Palmer, Auntie Janiyah, that in Breonna's name, neither I or my teenage daughter who was arrested with me would try to burn down a library that our people need. So I just want you to know those are some ridiculous charges that were levied against us. I also want the rest of y'all to know that we were detained at 8:58. Now,
8:58.
I don't know, what time is curfew?
9.
So you do the math. We were literally across the street from the church. And when we got to the library, the police surrounded us. They said, circle them. And they would not let us either get back to our car or literally get across the street to the church. So they came prepared for war and for battle against the people they are paid to protect and serve. But I just want to say that we will pass Breonna's law for Kentucky.
Yes. Yes.
Shamika, Nicole, Tyra, Kalila, Dana, Jocelyn, we've all been working with Sam Augiar, who you all have heard me say many times. My first day in office, he contacted me and said, we got some legislation we need to work on. This is 3.5 years ago, so we've been working on police accountability for years. We work with the ACLU of Kentucky. Shout out to Katura Heron. And our law goes a little bit further than the local law. Not only does it end no-knock warrants across Kentucky, because black folks everywhere, in Appalachia and rural Kentucky, but it also demands that when you do issue a warrant, that you must have a body-worn camera and it must be turned on,
And it wasn't.
or you will be disciplined, including termination.
Thank you.
It also mandates that we have an alcohol and drug test for all officers involved in deadly shootings and violent incidences. So, like Tamika Mallory said, we are coming to every county in Kentucky. We have 120 of them, and we're going from the hood to the holler.
Come on.
We are going to every county to make it very clear that your state representative better sign on to Breonna's Law for Kentucky, or in 2 years they're going to be gone. We are making it very clear to the Speaker of the House, David Osborne, right next door in Oldham County, that you need to make sure Breonna's Law is heard this year before we go back in session in January. So when we go back in January, we will pass Breonna's Law for Kentucky. Thank you.
Step, hold on. Are we going to take questions or not?
We better do that.
Okay. All right. Step back, everybody, for a second. Hold on for a second. Okay. Hey, Miss Tamika Palmer. Now, she ain't going to say anything. Janiyah told me I better not give her this mic. But she's going to do something special. And I heard her say it so many times. So I will say it as she commemorates her sister with her mother standing beside her. Breeway! 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 Y'all give it up for Breonna's little sister, Janiyah. Wasn't that special? So, Attorney Lonita Baker, Representative Scott, thank you for your leadership, your transformational leadership. Attorney Sam Augiar, we'll take a few questions, and then we're going to get to the business of what you said to Tamika, making the streets hot.
Lock is hot. We outside.
Okay.
No, hey! Folks, just a little bit right there. This brother.
That's going to be how we take it out.
That's it. Ben, right here. This brother.
Okay, yes. The fact that we, for 191 days, were proclaiming from the top of the mountaintop, say her name. The fact that Kentucky Attorney General Daniel Cameron did not mention her name once in the indictment was like a kick in the stomach to Tamika Palmer.
This lady right here. Go ahead. Thank you. You right here.
Confident are you that Daniel Cameron may, in fact, appoint a special prosecutor because of the public?
Thank you.
And are you looking for some recourse when it comes to the federal case?
You want to take your mask off?
Daniel Cameron has shown us that he does not intend to get justice for Breonna Taylor. He has shown us that he is not willing to fight on behalf of Breonna Taylor. Therefore, he is not capable of presenting a case, a fair case, to a grand jury on behalf of Breonna Taylor. Neither do we feel that he has the experience to continue to present on behalf, to fight on behalf of Breonna Taylor. So he should
Haley. I don't know if you can hear me or see me. Is it on? Was it on? The everything, because she tossed to me and then she was like, oh, Sanai's gonna actually. Oh. I don't know if I was on for a minute, but. Okay. Yes, I can. Okay. Yes. Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me? Hey Haley, we're in Jefferson Square Park. There's a lot of emotion, a lot of strong messages were shared today. I'm gonna step out of the way so you can take a look. I don't know if you can see a little bit, but they're over there in the middle, right in front of Breonna Taylor's sign, and they're joined by attorneys are out here, members of Until Freedom, the national social justice group based in New York, her family members, Janiyah, who's her little sister, her mother, Tamika Palmer. She didn't really share any words. She was very emotional to speak out, but her sister, Bianca Austin, read a letter that Tamika wrote directed at Cameron, Daniel Cameron, saying things like, Cameron, I never had faith in you to begin with. I am disappointed. And it was a pretty long letter where she was saying strong messages about how I hope this never happens to your daughter or your child in the future, the pain of reliving this for more than 100 days. And we also heard from Tamika Mallory, who was the co-founder of Until Freedom. She made it very clear they will make these streets hot, in her own words. She said, we will be out here. This is not over, it's just the beginning. Daniel Cameron was the target of this press conference, how they're demanding him to release the findings that he presented to the grand jury, saying they are not convinced that he presented all the evidence. We'll be sure to bring you all of that later on today, but for now, reporting live, Sanai Gabrigadis, WHES 11 News. All right, get ready to chase them. I would just take your camera. I'll watch this.
happened this past week. The protests have now continued in our city for 120 plus days, and they represent a demand, just talking about systemic and structural racism in our city, in our country, and we do something about it. That we finally figure out that if we don't act intentionally to close, for example, the unconscionable racial gaps in wealth and education and health and opportunity that we see in our city and too many cities all across our nation, we're all deemed to repeat this turmoil again and again. The work has begun in Louisville, and that shows the power of protest and the work that we've been doing all along. I'm not going to go down the entire list of things we've already done because I know it's not enough. We need to do more, and that goes far beyond just police reform. As I said yesterday, and I've said repeatedly throughout my time in office, you have my solemn oath that I am committed to this work. As for today, I'm again urging protesters and allies to use your power, use your passion, energy, and commitment to help shape the city we all want. And that's a city of justice, a city of equity, a city of peace and opportunity for everybody. Everyone has a First Amendment right to protest and do so peacefully and lawfully. But I want to stress that violence and destruction will not be tolerated. If you break windows, if you start fires, destroy property, or attack anyone, including our officers, you will be arrested. I know that most protesters continue to be peaceful and lawful. I thank you for that. But I want to caution the peaceful protesters, if you're in a group where destructive and violent behavior is happening, you need to separate from that group or you will be subject to arrest. As we work through these difficult times, I really want to emphasize we cannot create either or situations. We are one city, so it cannot be either the demonstrators or the police. We obviously need everybody to move forward in our city. So I want to thank the men and women of LMPD who are working long hours in often incredibly difficult situations for the work that they're doing to balance people's constitutional right to protest with their duty to protect public safety. As I said yesterday, public safety and the work for racial equity and justice can and must coexist. We must work together to achieve our goal of creating equity in our city for everybody in this great city of Louisville. With that, now we'll have some updates from Chief Schroeder. Chief?
Thank you, Mayor Fisher. We had another long night of activity throughout the metro area, with more than 100 protesters beginning in Jefferson Square. In all, around 26 people were arrested for various violations related to the protests. Charges include failure to disperse, unlawful assembly, curfew violations, and riot first degree. Prior to the curfew, protesters marched from Jefferson Square. Not long after it began, members of the group caused property damage, including at Jeff Ruby's restaurant on 4th Street. Because of the damage being done, an unlawful assembly was declared. Even though this was prior to curfew, it means people must disperse. Police began to stage and respond. The marchers continued through the downtown, causing damage at various locations, including TARC buses at Brook Street and breaking windows and tossing a flare into the main library at 3rd and York. Protesters gathered at First Unitarian Church at 809 South 4th Street, where church members allowed them to stay on the property as the curfew had expired. Several people were arrested in front of the church, charging them with unlawful assembly, failure to disperse, and first-degree rioting. Because of the damage being assessed at the library, police kept the area secured while the inspections and attempts at repairs were ongoing. Once the library was cleared, police worked with protesters to establish a plan for protesters to leave the church and head home. At that time, protesters were able to walk back to their vehicles and leave. I want to take a moment to address the rioting charge, as we have received several questions about it. Under Kentucky's riot statute, anyone who is part of a group causing damage or riotous behavior is subject to the charge of rioting. It does not require an individual to actually have participated in the specific destructive act. As you heard Mayor Fisher say, we encourage people to separate themselves from any damage or any unlawful activities during the protest. Throughout last night's march, there were several instances of destruction as I described. These occurred over several blocks and over an extended period of time. At that point, people could have disengaged from the march not to be associated with that criminal activity. That is why the participants in the group were arrested and charged with rioting. Once the protest activity concluded for the evening, officers addressed several incidents of looting at various locations throughout the city. We responded to 15 burglaries and 1 holdup of a business. The majority of the burglaries were described as having multiple suspects on scene at the time of the burglary. One break-in, for instance, at the GameStop at 4243 Outer Loop had an SUV driven through the front entrance. 2 other burglaries involved a firearm used to shoot out front glass doors. We are still gathering information on any arrests from these incidents. Once again, I'm asking the community to adhere to the curfew put in place to minimize this type of criminal activity. As a reminder, the curfew is in effect from 9 p.m. to 6:30 a.m. The destruction we saw last night simply cannot continue. I would also like to address another situation that we've been made aware of. We've received several inquiries regarding emails by 5th Division Major Bridget Hallahan. We are aware of these emails, and we have been looking into them. They were her personal opinions and do not represent the views of this department. She has been relieved of her command of the 5th Division, and Major Hallahan has accepted responsibility for her emails and is retiring from the department effective October 1st. Thank you.
Okay, if any reporters have any questions, you can put those in the chat area now. And again, I ask you to identify what media you're with. Let's see. Chief, this question is for you from Amina Alahi from WFPL. Tamika Mallory has said that white militia members were at Bader's Shell on 1st and Jefferson acting as security, alleging that they were out past curfew but not arrested. Why not? Is this equal enforcement of the curfew?
We received information on members clad in military-style attire at the Baders at 1st and Liberty. Our 1st Division Major contacted the owner of Baders, who said they were allowed on the property to act as security. As this was private property and they were not in the roadway, they were not in violation of the curfew. This is not dissimilar from the activity we saw at First Unitarian Church.
Mayor Fisher, Jerica Valtieri from Wave 3 News asked, what is the city's response to the protesters who took sanctuary at a church downtown past curfew? The minister in charge said she was taking the mayor's advice to provide a place to pray over what's happening in the city.
Yes, they did that, and then the minister worked with LMPD so that the people in the church could go home after the area around the library was cleared. So we've offered churches for areas for people to be able to worship. They did that, and then, as I said, LMPD worked with them so that they could all return to their homes.
The next question is for you as well, Mayor. Ben Tobin from the Courier-Journal asks, will you release the full LMPD Public Integrity Unit file, considering AG Cameron has completed his investigation and parts of it continue to leak?
Yeah, we're working with the Attorney General, the FBI, so that we can release as much of the file as possible without jeopardizing any of the criminal investigations that are going on. We're in the process of redacting any information that needs to do so within the PIU, and we'll have more information on that relative to next week. But yes, we intend to do so with as much of it as we can.
This next question is for the chief. Amina Alahi from WFPL asked, how would you suggest more than 100 people protesting peacefully separate themselves from a handful of people who choose to engage in vandalism? Are you saying that everyone in that crowd could have been arrested and charged with rioting?
Well, as you saw last night, there were hundreds, possibly several hundred people involved in that march, and it spanned over a period of space. So, no, we would not arrest everybody in the crowd for riotous behavior, but if you're in the immediate vicinity of those causing damage, please separate yourself from those folks in the immediate vicinity of folks who are causing damage.
Chief, this next question is also for you from Jerika from Wave 3. What is your response to the body cam video that was released of Sergeant Mattingly after he was shot?
We are aware of the body camera video that's been circulating on social media. It does reflect the treatment of Sergeant Mattingly after his gunshot wound. We are not sure how that information was released, but due to the ongoing LMPD internal investigation, I will not be able to comment further.
Chief Heather Fontaine asked a similar question, but adds that many people were under the impression that there were no body cameras that night. Could you address that?
There were no body cameras of the actual incident itself. There were body cameras from responding officers. We believe that video may have been from one of the responding officers.
Also for you, Chief Amina Elahi, why did you take action against Hallahan and not Mattingly? What made her email different than Mattingly's in tone or content?
We are also aware of the email by Sergeant Mattingly. Again, that is something we are reviewing and determining what course of action to take.
Danielle Grady from Leo Weekly has a question for the Chief. Do you think use of force at protests is an effective way of keeping protests from escalating, or does it fuel reaction? What is your goal in using it?
The use of force at a protest is no different from use of force in any other circumstance. We only use it when the circumstance dictates and only when needed to protect life or in some cases in protests, serious property damage.
Okay. Are there any other questions from the media? Oh, there's one. Chief, I'm sorry, this one's for you as well. What do you expect this weekend with the protest, and has the department heard of any large armed groups coming to Louisville?
I would imagine over the next weekend, people will continue to voice their First Amendment concerns. Obviously, on the weekend, a lot of folks are off work, so I would expect it to be a larger crowd. We have heard rumors of various folks coming in from out of town for the protest on both sides of the issue. I have not received any additional specific information on militia groups coming to town. However, many of them say they're coming to help us. Let me be clear, that is not help we need, that is not help we want, and it does not help the situation. It only exacerbates the situation and makes it more difficult for everybody involved.
One more question from Amina Elahi, and then we'll close. Why was being on private property not the standard for not being in violation of curfew the night David McAtee was killed?
Again, the McAtee investigation is still currently ongoing, and I will not be able to comment on that.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thanks everybody for joining us for today's update. And as we move into the weekend, I just ask everyone to please be safe, be peaceful, take care of each other. If you are going to protest, please do so during the daylight hours. That's the best for everybody. Express your First Amendment rights, and then let's get to work on working and healing our city. Let's go to work to move both our city and our country forward. Thank you.
as well as asking for additional revenue to go straight to the achievement gap, because we have said our achievement gap between black and white students is not acceptable. And I believe one of the main answers to our problems in this nation is education. If I didn't believe that, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing right now. And so we are here to say we need to do better. We're asking the community to allow us to do better, and we're going to work hard to make sure that we do that. I also want to thank all of our families. I know it's been a difficult time, parents. I'm also a parent of a JCPS student, and I know NTI is difficult. The younger the student, the more challenging it can become. And so we have many parents who are trying to work and do their jobs while also trying to support their child with NTI. So clearly we understand that difficulty, and we've heard from you, and we know that. I appreciate everyone's hard work and support through this all. This is across America. I speak with large district superintendents all over across America, and we're all communities, nearly every single one of them is struggling with that same challenge, which is that balance of safety and health while also student achievement and wanting to get our kids back in school. And so we are doing that, but I do want to thank all of our parents out there as we move forward. And so while I can't today promise an exact date when we will be back into school buildings, I can promise you this: we will always keep the health and safety of our students and staff first and foremost. And I want to say this: there is no doubt we want our kids back in school. Every single one of us got in this profession so that we could interact with kids on a daily basis. That's why we're passionate about it. I miss that as superintendent, not being in a school and being able to interact with kids on a regular basis. I just spoke to one of my former students who is having personal crisis over the past few weeks, and it just reminds me how powerful this job is that we do. And I know so many educators in there want to be in school with their students. But I also hear so much from other educators, adults, parents who have children that are high risk, who fear for their life. It's a very uncertain time right now. And as I said last week at the press conference, that is a very difficult burden to weigh out. It's difficult for our board members and difficult for me and my team to make a decision that could potentially cost someone their life. And we have been committed from the very beginning of this work that we would ensure that the first guiding principle would be safety and health. And I also want to say the larger the school district, the more challenging and complicated it becomes to make sure that we are able to implement the safety measures that are necessary to ensure that every single staff member and every single child is safe and every caregiver is safe. We also know we are in a pandemic that unfortunately has seemed to strike our students of color and our communities of color at higher rates. JCPS has over 50% students of color. So we have to know that our number one support has to be guiding principle has to be safety and health, and we will continue to stay with that. So as you know, last week we received additional guidance from the Kentucky Department of Education and the Department of Public Health, and they provided us with a chart for all of us to follow. We made some decisions last week about not playing football games out of county because of that chart and because of the guidance, and we take that very seriously. So right now we are in that orange category, which is between 10 and 25 cases, COVID cases per every 100,000. As of last night in Jefferson County, it was 16.4 cases per 100,000, which puts us squarely in the orange category. And if you look at the chart that is on our website, when you are in the orange category, the guidance is to consider remote learning. So based on this data regarding COVID cases in our community at this time, I will be proposing that we continue NTI until late October. Now, I'm not saying 6 weeks at this time because I want to give the opportunity for us to be flexible and get back to school as quickly as we can. But without a doubt, those cases per 100,000 are going to have to decline where we feel safe to bring back all of our staff and students in which thousands of them have pre-existing conditions. So on Tuesday night, I will make this recommendation to our board. It will be their decision at that time, I will also be reporting on what our next phase of in-person learning will look like. Any future decisions on in-person learning will be made at another board meeting, so there will not be a recommendation about future board meetings, but we will be reporting and giving to our board what that next step will look like. We hope that is as soon as possible. We are saying late October, and it does put a little pressure on us because we will be voting again several weeks later. But we want to give every opportunity for our children to get back if the cases decline. And I can't say enough, it is so important that our community follow these guidelines, wearing masks and taking other steps so we can get our kids back in school as quickly as possible. But if there is a consistent decline, if we move into that yellow, we would love to see our elementary school students return to in-person classes in late October. We have a target date of October 22nd that we would love to have our elementary school students first. We would bring them back first. We will discuss that with the board on Tuesday evening. But I want to reiterate that will require a decline in cases for that to happen, a future board meeting, and a future vote in order for that to happen. But we want to get our youngest students in first. And we have charged to make sure our schools are prepared for that date and ready to go in the elementary schools. Then we would like to bring back our 6th and 9th graders. So 6th graders into middle school and 9th graders into high school. That would be 1 week later if the data declines, which would be October 29th. And we would do that because those students have transitioned into new schools. They've been in NTI. They haven't had the opportunity to be in their schools, and those schools could implement those in smaller numbers. Our middle and high schools will be prepared for that to happen on October 29th. Then if we continue to have the decline in cases, we would bring back the rest of our middle and high school students, 7th and 8th graders, 10th, 11th, and 12th graders on November 2nd, a few days later. So that would be our goal. Our goal is clearly to make sure that by November 2nd and beginning October 22nd, we would begin phasing our students back into school. We are preparing for that. We are prepared, and we will be prepared to do that. But once again, that will require a decline in cases. I also want to let our families know we will have a virtual option that is ready for our families, for any family who chooses not to send their child back to in-person learning. We are also at this time collecting data on those staff members, those educators who need accommodations because they are in a high-risk category, so we can have them teach in the virtual academy. Families, after our board meeting on Tuesday night, we will begin asking parents to let us know whether they will be choosing the virtual option or the in-person option once we get back to school, hoping that that is beginning on October 22nd. That will go for 2 weeks. We will have information on that as soon as the board meeting is over Tuesday night, probably Wednesday morning, so we can collect data on that virtual option. So families, stay tuned for that, but we want to be able to provide this option for all of our families. As you can see, with nearly 100,000 students, the challenge that comes with providing a virtual option for all students, providing the ability to accommodate all of our thousands of staff members who need accommodations because of pre-existing conditions, because we want to ensure health first and foremost. Our team continues to work through logistics of reopening school, and we are ready to go. But before we returned, we have to make sure that once again the guiding principle is safety and health, and that we ensure that everyone, that we are safe for our students, our educators, and our families and caregivers at home. That has to be number one. Before we would return, we would have a special board meeting where we would cover all the logistics several weeks prior to any return that would happen, all the requirements for families, everything that families need to know, so that if we are able to return on October 22nd, everyone has the information necessary. I want our families to know that there is a path forward for us to come back together. I know how tough this has been, I really do. We pledge to continue to be transparent about this, give as much information as we possibly can every step of the way, But once again, I know I've said this several times, but to keep safety and health first. All the things that we are dealing with are very difficult for everyone in the community. As a school system, we are dealing with a pandemic, which has none of us have ever gone through before, especially in education, and did not have any training about how to deal with that. We are going through, as a community, racial and social unrest, which is very difficult for many of our families. Finally, we are in the middle of a Kentucky Department of Education audit, which I am proud to demonstrate at the same time the great work that this district has done over the past several years. So as you can see, it's a lot to navigate through as a team, but I'm so proud of everyone in JCPS for the work that they are doing. I want to say once again, the size of the district makes it challenging as we transition to in-person. It's very complicated. Obviously, transportation, staffing, PPE, all of those things can be very challenging, but I'll say this, I believe we have the best team in America to do this work. We are committed to getting our kids back to school as soon as possible. We miss our students, we really do, and we look forward to the day we can all come back together safely. Thank you. I'm happy to take any questions that you have. Yeah, so repeat the question. So the question is, to sum up, if we go back to school with our elementary kids on October 22nd, we're in yellow and we go back to orange, what would the steps be? So once again, it's very difficult, and I said at a board meeting a couple weeks ago, I think our board is committed. I've had several conversations. We don't want this to be an in and out scenario. We don't want where we go for a few days. Families are happy to have kids back to school. Kids go back to school, and then we have to reverse course a few days later. Having said that, we still want to give every opportunity to get back in school. So we are looking for consistency. Now, I'm not saying it has to be in yellow all 10 days in a row or 2 weeks in a row, but we are looking for some consistency in trends where we know it's heading in the right direction. I saw Fayette County yesterday was reported in the red, so now they are above 25 cases per 100,000. So I know they have additional challenge. We don't want to go in and out. We want to make that attempt, but this will be something we live with for a while. And I think it's clear that we could go back to school and then have to come out at a future date based upon that data. So if we are going to use data to drive our decision making, which I believe in, we've asked for, I think so many people want to make decisions in today's day and age on different things. And I know there's a lot of disagreement on this data, but we have to trust the experts, the epidemiologists at the federal level, the state level, and the local level. And that's what we are consistently doing. So there is a possibility we could come back out, and I think families need to know that, but we will be open and honest and transparent with them. And I think that's why they can go to our website and follow the data with us so that they know the answers to these questions. Yes, sir.
Before students return on October 22nd, does the county have to be in the yellow zone or just trending toward? What do you want to see?
Yeah, so the question is, before we could return on October 22nd, do we have to be trending towards the yellow or in the yellow? I think that summed it up. So that's a great question, and I think our board wants a little flexibility, and that's what this does give. And so when we look at the color-coded system, orange is definitely, they say, recommends that consider all remote learning, which we are doing because we are squarely in that. There is no doubt, I think our board members desire us to be in yellow. We want as little angst about returning to work as possible. I don't know if that's possible in today's day and age, that there won't be angst at any time for people going to work in the middle of a pandemic, but we want to see that trend. That does not mean if it gets to 10.2, 10 being yellow, 10.2, that our board wouldn't consider that to be in an area that's close enough to send us back to school. And so I think the more important thing is the consistent trend in the community and moving towards that yellow and being, so if it goes 1 week to 9.0 and let's say the next week 10.1, I think we would have flexibility to say it's close enough for us to return to school. But that's going to be our board decision, and we would discuss that with them prior to making any decision. Mandy? No, I am not giving it a concrete number. I think some of our board members, they have expressed the desire that it's 2 weeks in the yellow. And I think we have some of that from, employees as well, and I completely understand that without a doubt. But I think we're in a time where flexibility is important. I commend our state health department for giving us this document, which allowed for guidance, but still allowed for some flexibility at the local level. So it doesn't necessarily mean it has to be 14 days in the yellow, but there is no doubt, I think, for our board to feel confident, me making the recommendation and our board feeling confident that they're making the right decision, it's going to have to be a consistent pattern. I think, yes, I do. The question was, would our job have been easier if we had had this in July? And I might be different. I think there's some other superintendents who wanted complete flexibility. So I'm not saying this is a unified front on across the state. But I have to say that we want our decision to be made based on data. I said this last week that, we're not epidemiologists. We're not experts in the medical profession. And so, yes, everyone is reading from varying different views out there what is happening with COVID-19 and what the facts are. But for us, we have to listen to the experts, federal, state, and local, and base it on data. So it is definitely gives me more comfort to have some data to watch on a regular basis and make that decision. So the question was, will any parent have the opportunity to have virtual learning? Yes. So every child will have the opportunity to enroll in our virtual learning. We have a platform that we purchased so that we would have a virtual learning platform, knowing at some point we are going to have students in the school buildings and many choosing to be on the virtual academy. So many of our students are working on that now, so the virtual academy will be a continuation similar to NTI. It will probably be more based upon the definite hours of the school day, but we will have plenty of information on that virtual academy. I really hope that we are giving that option to families on October 22nd. That is my hope, that on October 22nd, we have families in the virtual academy. But a challenge nationwide, without a doubt, is the number of students who want that and pairing it up with the number of employees who might be in high-risk categories. That's not an easy challenge to overcome. But we will do it. Any of our 97,000 students want to be in virtual academy, we will give them that opportunity in order to feel safe. Mandy? There is. So we use the Realize platform from Salvis Learning. There will still be live instruction, so I want to say that. There will still be the live instruction where teachers are teaching to students on one of the platforms, Teams or Google Meet. So there will still be that, but it will work through this platform where there is a curriculum in place to provide many opportunities for teachers to build on this curriculum and assignments in this platform. So yes, you are correct. It will be based on this platform, but they will be assigned to teachers who will be providing instruction. Yeah. So the biggest challenges, what are the biggest challenges for a district like JCPS for us when it comes to getting back in school? So first of all, transportation. There is no doubt that transportation is a major hurdle in ensuring that we are able to safely transport kids to school, and we can have as many as 50 kids on a bus at any time. So transportation is a significant challenge. There's no doubt pairing up staff who are high risk with families who want the virtual option and ensuring that number is correct, that we still have enough staff that are to support in-person learning is a huge hurdle for us. I mean, there is no doubt about that. Finally, I would say this: our buildings are not designed for students spacing out, for social distance. You look at the vast majority of our buildings were built prior to 1970, and 1970 buildings were built very different than buildings in the 2000s. And so you have small hallways, small doors, small classrooms, poor air ventilation. So all of those are a challenge, and I think our staff knows that uniquely. That when we go in our buildings, that most of our buildings, I believe 48 of them were built between 1950 and 1970. Most of them are at end of life right now, and hence my discussion always about our facilities issues in JCPS. If we had new facilities, it would be much easier to do the social distance with our children, but that's not our reality right now. So that is definitely a challenge for us as well. But we feel we're going to meet those challenges and be ready. We know we'll be ready. And so we hope that's October 22nd. Question is there any message from the district about choose virtual option if you can, so you can stay home? No, I don't think we will send that message. I would say the same thing to parents. Many people are uneasy. I've gotten many emails from parents saying, I'm scared to send my child back to school. They have asthma or they have some other condition. Obviously, many from employees as well. So we want parents to do what they think is best for their child. We want to give them the best learning experience. If the parent wants it to be in person, we want to get that back as quickly as possible into the school building. But we also want to meet parents who are worried about sending their child, and maybe it's a caregiver at home. We have thousands of children who are raised by elderly grandparents as well, or they live in the home, and that's a major concern. So I think each family has to take that into consideration. I look forward, I know my daughter is wanting to get back to school, and as a dad, I want her back in school, and so I can't wait. She will be going back as soon as we are able to do that, but I know other families will choose differently, so we want every family to do what's best for them. We're currently hiring right now. We will have enough bus drivers, but we are always hiring for bus drivers. It's been difficult because we haven't transported kids since March 13th, 14th, whatever that is. Now, we can have bus drivers still on staff working for us in other ways, but we're working hard to ensure that we have enough bus drivers. Yes? Yeah, so the question is, the cases seem to spike after holidays, July 4th, Labor Day, and is it a consideration like colleges when we get towards Thanksgiving and holiday break to, like colleges, not be back? So, what we have to do, I believe, is look at the data. There is no doubt that I think it's pretty evident that you are correct in your what you just said there, which is they spike after holidays or times when people get together in large gatherings. So no, we're not going to make any considerations to change the calendar as far as prior to the holidays. I would encourage everyone to know that decisions that are made locally will impact whether we are in school or not. And so encouraging everyone to follow guidelines, social distance, masks, all the things that we've heard for the past 6 or 7 months, because they do have an impact. The amount of cases in our community have a direct impact of whether we go to school or not. So if we want our kids back in school, we need the cases per 100,000 to drop. It's that simple. And so we've got to follow that guidance and ensure that we are doing that. We will, our recommendation to the board will be when we come back to school, hopefully that's October 22nd. If it's later, then we'll make that decision. We will have a couple of days built in where kids will be done with NTI and have the ability to not have to work, and then our teachers and staff to be able to get into their classrooms and prepare. So we will have a plan to build in a few days, 2 or 3 days for staff members, and really families and kids to step away before we get into school, because I know it's been a challenge for everybody. Mandy? Yeah. Okay, so the question is about current situation in our community, racial unrest in our community, and Carroll County choosing not to come tomorrow as a result of being afraid to come because of the unrest in our community. I have not spoken to the superintendent of Carroll County, so I'm sure our district athletic director has, and probably the school. We moved all of our football games for curfew-related issues. We could not play football and ensure that all of our, there was no way. We couldn't get officials until the earliest would be 5:30 p.m., and there's no way to play a high school football game and ensure that all of the participants, coaches, fans, get home by 9 o'clock. And so that's why we moved it to the day, tomorrow, so that we could do that. So we've been pleased with how our coaches and our teams have reacted to this and been successful with this. I would want them to come during the day. I believe it can be safe, but I think that's a decision that every school district has to make on their own. So I think Carroll County is going to make that. There is no doubt I have a passion for Shawnee. I can't wait till we have a ribbon cutting coming up soon, or a tour of the school for their 3rd floor. For those of you that don't know, we've had a school in this district that has a condemned 3rd floor since 1981. That's Shawnee High School. I taught there in '97, and it had been closed down for 16 years. I don't know if there's another school in America that has that. And it's just symbolic of our lack of investment in our facilities, and specifically West Louisville. And I think that goes into some of the work that we have to do. We are fixing that now. We have a lot more work to do. The newest middle or high school in West Louisville was built in 1952. We've got to change that. This is why we're asking the community for support for schools like the Academy at Shawnee and our students in West Louisville. So I hope they play, but I haven't spoken to the superintendent. Thank you all. Appreciate your time.
A modern compact crossover that's ready for life's daily adventures. It's the dynamic 2020 Kia Sportage. Enjoy a suite of standard technology and driver assistance features, as well as flexible storage and seating options with 60/40 split folding rear seats and a dual-level cargo floor. Wherever you're going, enjoy the drive in a new Kia Sportage. Cruise off today and take advantage of a fantastic deal. Click on the video now to learn more.